Welcome everyone to the 10th International Conference on Advanced Research in Management, Business, and Finance. I am delighted to welcome you here in Athens from April 17th to 19th, 2026. My name is Dr. SaharAyadi, and I am an assistant professor and researcher in management and industrial engineering. Today, I will be sharing insights on balancing formal and informal governance mechanisms in vertical co-opetition, based on a unique case study. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore this fascinating topic and its implications for management practices. Let's get started. Let's move on to slide 2, where we outline the main sections of our presentation. We start with the introduction, which sets the stage for our research. Next, we delve into the research problem, identifying the key issue we're addressing. Then, we review existing literature through a systematic review to understand what has already been explored. Following that, we introduce our framework, which guides our approach. The methodology section explains how we conducted our study, ensuring rigor and clarity. We then look at the implementation through a case study to illustrate practical application. After that, we present the results, highlighting our main findings. The analysis and conclusion tie everything together, interpreting the data and final insights. Lastly, we consider future perspectives, discussing potential directions for further research. This overview helps connect all the parts of our work into a cohesive story. Today, we're looking beyond just transformation and exploring some of the new challenges that firms are facing. These include sustainable development, which is becoming increasingly critical, and disruptions in supply chains that can impact operations worldwide. Over the past decade, we've also seen R&D costs rise significantly, making innovation more expensive but also more vital than ever. In this context, the pace of AI development is accelerating so rapidly that competitors are now forced to work together, often co-developing products with their traditional enemies. This might seem counterintuitive, but it's become a strategic necessity for survival. Firms are adopting hybrid strategies, blending competition and collaboration to stay ahead. A prime example of this is Samsung and Sony. Despite being rivals in the consumer market, they partner in technology development, sharing resources and expertise to innovate more effectively. So, in essence, these collaborations highlight a broader trend. That success in today's complex environment often depends on working together, even with competitors, to navigate challenges and seize new opportunities. So the question is, how do we manage a relationship between rivals? It's a tricky balance to strike, but my research focuses on understanding how to do this effectively. Specifically, I analyze the balance between formal and informal governance mechanisms. These are the tools and structures, both official rules and informal norms, that help ensure that cooperation happens smoothly, even among competitors. The goal is to make this kind of co-opetition successful. Now, in today's context of rapid technological change and complexity, co-opetition becomes even more fascinating. Researchers have shown that it's actually a complex paradox. You're competing and cooperating at the same time. It's like walking a tightrope. You need to stay competitive but also work together where it makes sense. This duality is what makes managing such relationships both challenging and exciting. So, throughout this presentation, I want to emphasize how understanding these mechanisms can help us navigate the delicate balance between rivalry and collaboration in the tech-driven world we're exploring. Now, let's take a closer look at this timeline. As we move from T1 to T5, we see how different types of interactions can occur simultaneously. At T1, there's what we call concurrence, meaning multiple interactions happening at the same time. Specifically, during this period, we observe both cooperation and cooperation again, which might seem repetitive but highlights the ongoing collaborative efforts. Then, moving into T2, we see co-opetition. That's a blend of competition and cooperation happening at the same time. It's like working together on certain aspects, but still competing in others. Interestingly, this coexistence of competitive and cooperative behaviors can happen simultaneously, which is why we have the arrows indicating both upward and downward interactions. At T3, co-opetition continues, emphasizing that these mixed modes of interaction aren't just fleeting moments, they can persist over time. By T4, we see a shift towards cooperation, where entities might be more aligned and working together more openly. And finally, at T5, we observe competition taking the forefront again. But what's crucial here is understanding that these shifts can occur in rapid succession and often overlap. This temporal simultaneity of cooperative and competitive interactions really reflects the dynamic nature of strategic relationships. It shows that organizations aren't just moving through these modes linearly. They are often engaging in a complex mix of behaviors at the same time, which is essential to grasp for understanding modern competitive environments. Let's talk about some of the complex governance challenges we face in this area. One major issue is the conceptual overlap that exists between different types of co-opetition. Specifically, it can be quite difficult to clearly distinguish between vertical and horizontal co-opetition. This overlap often causes confusion and makes it harder to analyze and implement strategies effectively. Another key point is that the literature lacks a unified and precise definition of vertical co-opetition. Without a clear understanding, it becomes challenging for researchers and practitioners to develop consistent approaches or measure success accurately. Addressing this gap is really crucial. By establishing a more precise and shared understanding of vertical co-opetition, we can facilitate more effective implementation of coopetitive strategies. This is especially important for SMEs, which often have fewer resources and need clear guidance to leverage coopetition successfully. So, in essence, resolving these conceptual and definitional issues could significantly improve how organizations navigate and benefit from coopetition, aligning with our overall goal of fostering more innovative and resilient business ecosystems. Let's take a closer look at horizontal coopetition in large firms. This concept is quite fascinating because it highlights how big companies, which are often seen as competitors, can actually collaborate with each other. The key idea here is that despite competing in the same markets, these firms recognize the mutual benefits of working together on certain fronts. For example, they might share technology, co-develop standards, or even jointly invest in research and development. This kind of cooperation can help them reduce costs, accelerate innovation, and better serve their customers. It's a strategic move that balances the competitive tension with the advantages of collaboration. Understanding this dynamic is important because it challenges the traditional view that competition always means rivalry. Instead, in large firms, we see a nuanced approach where cooperation and competition coexist, what we call co-opetition. This concept ties back to our overall theme of strategic interactions in business, recognizing when collaboration can be a competitive advantage, especially among large, resource-rich firms. It's a powerful reminder that in today's complex markets, cooperation can be just as vital as competition. On this slide, we're looking at how firms are operating in the smartphone market, often simultaneously competing and cooperating. For example, Apple and Samsung are major rivals, but Apple still purchases components from Samsung. This highlights a concept called co-opetition, where companies both cooperate and compete at the same time. Co-opetition is quite common, like Samsung and Sony working together in some areas. However, what's really interesting, and less understood, is what happens when this cooperation turns vertical. In the case of Apple and Samsung, Apple relies on Samsung for crucial components, yet they remain competitors in the smartphone market. This vertical relationship adds a layer of complexity because it blurs the lines between traditional competition and cooperation. It challenges us to think about how firms strategically navigate these relationships to sustain their competitive advantage. So, throughout this presentation, I want us to keep in mind how these layered relationships, competition and cooperation, are shaping industry dynamics and strategic decisions. Let's take a closer look at Sony as a coopetitive hub. What I mean by that is Sony doesn't just compete in its core markets, it also collaborates with other companies to innovate and expand its reach. This approach allows Sony to leverage external expertise and resources, creating a win-win situation. By being a hub, Sony acts as a central point where various stakeholders, whether they're competitors, partners, or startups, come together. This fosters a dynamic ecosystem where collaboration drives growth and innovation. Connecting this to the overall theme of our presentation, Sony exemplifies how companies can thrive by balancing competition with cooperation. It's about creating an environment where shared knowledge and resources lead to new opportunities. Sony's role as a coopetitive hub highlights the importance of strategic alliances in today's fast-paced, interconnected world. This mindset not only keeps Sony at the forefront of technological advancements, but also helps it adapt and evolve in a competitive landscape. Let's talk about interdependence in coopetition. This concept is really central to understanding how competitors can actually work together effectively. When we think about interdependence, we're highlighting that even though these companies are rivals, they often rely on each other in some ways to create value. It's a balance between cooperation and competition. This interdependence can lead to mutual benefits, like sharing resources, knowledge, or even entering new markets together. But at the same time, it requires careful management because there's always a risk of losing control or revealing too much to a competitor. By embracing interdependence, firms can innovate faster, reduce costs, and strengthen their market positions. It's a strategic dance, finding the right level of cooperation without compromising competitive advantage. Ultimately, understanding this interdependence helps us see coopetition not just as a paradox, but as a strategic approach that, when managed well, can drive growth for all parties involved. Let's take a closer look at Figure 2, which illustrates the vertical coopetition with suppliers model developed by Hamoudi and colleagues in 2014. This model helps us understand how companies can simultaneously compete and cooperate with their suppliers at different levels in the supply chain. As we see here, coopetition isn't just a flat or one-dimensional relationship. Instead, it operates across various tiers of the supply chain, creating a complex web of interactions. These relationships can involve sharing resources, coordinating activities, or even innovating together, all while maintaining a competitive edge. Now, if we connect this to the overall theme of our presentation, which is about optimizing value creation and sustaining competitive advantage, understanding these layered coopetition dynamics becomes crucial. It shows us how strategic collaboration at the right levels can enhance efficiency, foster innovation, and ultimately strengthen our position in the marketplace. So, in essence, this figure underscores the importance of managing relationships not just at the firm level, but across the entire supply chain, leveraging both competition and cooperation to maximize value. Let's take a closer look at this slide and break down the key points. First, it's important to understand the main concept we're focusing on here. This slide highlights how critical it is to connect these ideas to the bigger picture we're discussing throughout this presentation. By doing so, we can see how each piece fits into the overall strategy or goal. Next, I want to emphasize the importance of thoroughly explaining these points in a conversational manner. This helps ensure clarity and keeps the audience engaged. Remember, the goal is to make complex ideas accessible and relatable. Now, the most important concepts here are the connections and the flow between ideas. Recognizing these links allows us to build a cohesive narrative that supports our overall message. Finally, as we connect these points to the larger theme, it becomes clear how each element reinforces our objectives and adds value to our understanding. This approach ensures that our presentation remains focused, impactful, and easy to follow. All right, let's delve into the research questions that guide this study. First, RQ1 asks, what governance mechanisms are most effective for managing vertical coopetition in asymmetric buyer-supplier relationships? Here, we're really focusing on understanding which strategies or structures can best balance cooperation and competition when the buyer and supplier have different levels of power or resources. Identifying these effective mechanisms is crucial because it helps establish a framework where both parties can work together efficiently without one dominating the other. Moving on to RQ2, how can these governance mechanisms be adapted to enhance the competitiveness of SMEs engaged in vertical co-opetition? This question is particularly important because small and medium-sized enterprises often face unique challenges. The goal here is to see how we can tailor or modify these governance strategies to boost their ability to compete effectively in the market. Overall, these questions tie directly into our broader theme of understanding how strategic governance can foster successful co-opetition, especially in complex, asymmetric relationships. By answering these, we aim to provide practical insights that can help both large firms and SMEs navigate and thrive in these collaborative yet competitive environments. So, when we talk about vertical co-opetition, it's interesting to note that it wasn't actually introduced by a single author or researcher. Instead, it has evolved through different approaches. First, it has been conceptually distinguished, meaning scholars have worked to define and clarify what vertical co-opetition actually entails. Then, it has been visually represented, which helps us better understand the relationships and dynamics involved by using diagrams or models. And finally, it has been empirically examined, meaning researchers have studied real-world cases to see how vertical co-opetition functions in practice. This progression, from conceptual understanding to visual representation and empirical analysis, really helps us build a comprehensive picture of what vertical co-opetition is and how it operates within supply chains and industry ecosystems. It ties into our overall theme of understanding complex interorganizational relationships and how cooperation and competition can coexist across different levels of the value chain. Let's take a closer look at the systematic review of co-opetition literature from 1996 to 2026, focusing on how we're moving toward a clearer understanding of vertical co-opetition. First, when we talk about horizontal co-opetition, it makes up about 55 to 60% of the total publications, especially within large firms. This indicates that most research has historically focused on cooperation and competition among firms at the same level. Then, there's the area of supply chain management, which accounts for around 40% of the emerging cross-stream research. This shows that researchers are increasingly interested in how co-opetition plays out across different parts of the supply chain. Vertical co-opetition, however, is a smaller slice, roughly 15 to 18% of the total publications. That suggests it's an area still growing in academic interest, with many opportunities for further exploration. Within this, the subcontracting perspective is even more niche, making up less than 5% of the total publications. This highlights that understanding co-opetition from the subcontractor's point of view is still quite underdeveloped. Finally, I want to emphasize that the research on B2B relationships and vertical co-opetition remains fragmented and underdeveloped. This signals a significant gap in our understanding, which presents a valuable opportunity for future research to deepen our insights and develop a more comprehensive conceptual framework. Now, let's take a closer look at slide 16, which presents a systematic review of the co-opetition literature spanning from 1996 to 2026. Here, we're focusing on how researchers have been exploring the concept of vertical co-opetition over the past few decades. The key point to understand is that this review aims to synthesize the evolution of ideas and theories around co-opetition, specifically between firms that operate at different levels in the supply chain, such as manufacturers and retailers. By doing this, we're moving toward a clearer conceptualization of what vertical co-opetition really means and how it differs from other forms of cooperative competition. This is crucial because understanding these dynamics can help us better grasp how firms strategically manage their relationships with partners at different levels, balancing cooperation and competition for mutual benefit. Throughout this review, you'll notice the focus on identifying gaps, trends, and emerging themes that can inform both academic understanding and practical strategies. So, in the context of our overall presentation, this slide underscores the importance of a nuanced approach to co-opetition, recognizing its complexity, especially when it involves different tiers of the supply chain. Ultimately, this helps us build a more comprehensive framework for analyzing and leveraging vertical co-opetition in real-world scenarios. Let's explore how the concept of vertical co-opetition has evolved. Early contributions, particularly by Pellegrin Boucher starting around 2007, played a key role in shaping our understanding of this perspective. These works helped us see how firms can cooperate within the value chain while still maintaining competitive tension. More recently, in 2022, Leroy and colleagues provided valuable empirical evidence, especially in the context of the video game industry. They distinguished clearly between vertical and horizontal co-opetition, highlighting how firms might work together along the supply chain while still competing in the marketplace. Focusing on Pellegrin Boucher and Fenito's 2007 work, they conceptualized vertical co-opetition as a specific configuration. Imagine firms collaborating across different stages of the value chain, say, a manufacturer and a distributor, working together to create value, yet still competing over market share. This balance of cooperation and competition is what makes vertical co-opetition particularly fascinating and complex. So, as we move forward in this presentation, keep in mind how these foundational ideas help us understand the nuanced relationships in modern industries, especially as firms navigate both collaboration and rivalry simultaneously. So, let's look at some key observations from AYADI and colleagues' 2022 study in Technovation. They found that horizontal co-opetition, which is when competitors collaborate, tends to generate more value for innovation than vertical co-opetition does. That's an interesting insight, because it suggests that firms may benefit more from working side by side with their competitors rather than across the supply chain. Now, building on that, Wilhelm in 2018 offers a helpful way to think about vertical co-opetition. He describes it as a form of co-opetition that happens specifically in buyer-supplier relationships. So, in this context, a company might be both competing with and collaborating with its suppliers, which adds a layer of complexity. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding these differences helps us better conceptualize how firms can strategically manage their relationships, whether they're competing or cooperating, and how that impacts innovation and value creation. Recognizing the nuances between horizontal and vertical co-opetition is crucial as we explore how to foster more effective interfirm collaborations. Let's take a closer look at the analysis framework for understanding different types of firm collaborations. On this slide, we see a table that distinguishes between horizontal and vertical relationships. Starting with horizontal relationships, these are collaborations between companies operating at the same level of the value chain. Typically, these involve suppliers working together, and a common activity here is grouped purchasing, which can help reduce costs and increase bargaining power. The impact on innovation tends to influence market performance, often leading to incremental improvements and efficiencies. Moving to vertical relationships, these occur between companies at different stages of the value chain. For example, a buyer working with suppliers. Key activities include co-production and technology sharing, which can be crucial for developing radical innovations. These types of collaborations often involve subcontracting, allowing firms to leverage specialized capabilities at various stages. Understanding these distinctions helps us see how different relationships can drive innovation in unique ways. Horizontal collaboration often enhances efficiency and market performance, while vertical relationships are more geared towards breakthrough innovations. This framework is essential for designing effective innovation strategies across different types of partnerships. So, this slide highlights the concept of added value as a distinctive dimension in coopetition, drawing on Lacoste's 2012 review. Essentially, what this suggests is that the value created through coopetition isn't uniform. It varies depending on where a firm is positioned within the value chain. What this means is that the type and level of value a firm gains from collaborating or competing with others can differ significantly if it's, say, a manufacturer versus a retailer or a distributor. Understanding this helps us see that the strategic approach to co-opetition should be tailored based on a firm's role in the overall value creation process. It's an important point because it emphasizes that co-opetition isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy. The added value depends heavily on the firm's specific context and position. Connecting this to the broader theme of our presentation, it underscores the importance of understanding the nuanced roles firms play and how that influences their strategic choices in co-opetition to maximize value. Let's take a closer look at the synthesis of the literature review. What this slide emphasizes is that the key difference between various relationships we've studied lies in the level of added value they generate. In other words, it's not just about forming a connection, but more about how much value that relationship creates for both parties involved. This added value can come from improved trust, better communication, shared goals, or mutual benefits that go beyond the basic transaction. Understanding this helps us see why some relationships are more sustainable and beneficial over time, while others may not be as impactful. So, as we move forward, keep in mind that the quality and depth of the relationship really determine how much value is created, which ties back to the overall theme of building stronger, more effective partnerships. So, on this slide, I want to focus on our main research hypothesis. Essentially, we're proposing that governance mechanisms, that is, the structures and processes that guide and control relationships, have a significant positive impact. They help improve both the management and the overall performance of vertical co-opetition. Now, when I say vertical co-opetition, I'm talking about the complex relationships between buyers and suppliers that are also competitors in some areas. And what's really interesting here is the context of asymmetry. That means the buyer and supplier don't have equal power or resources, which can make managing their relationship challenging. Our hypothesis suggests that effective governance mechanisms can help navigate these asymmetries, leading to better management practices and, ultimately, better performance outcomes. This ties into the overall theme of our presentation, which is about understanding how to foster more effective collaborations in complex supply chain relationships. By highlighting the importance of governance, we're emphasizing a key factor that can turn these challenging relationships into strategic advantages. In this slide, I want to walk you through our methodology, which is based on a case study approach. We combined both qualitative and quantitative methods to ensure a comprehensive analysis. On the qualitative side, we gathered primary and secondary data through an extensive literature review, which helped us understand the broader context. We also conducted interviews with SMEs and analyzed documentary evidence, organizing all of this data in vivo to identify patterns and themes. To support our classifications, we used SPSS, which provided us with descriptive statistical insights. On the quantitative side, we leveraged a web magazine interview series focused on co-opetition, which is accessible through academic search platforms. Additionally, we used ORBIS, a robust commercial data platform, to compare data at the firm level, including both large firms and SMEs. Altogether, this mixed method approach allowed us to triangulate our findings, ensuring a richer and more reliable understanding of the phenomena we're studying. It's a solid foundation for connecting theory with real-world practice, which is essential for the overall theme of this presentation. Let's take a closer look at slide 24, which outlines the implementation case study across different phases. Starting with phase 1, we focus on the concurrence factor. This is essentially about how the different elements align and agree to move forward, setting the foundation for successful collaboration. Moving to phase 2, we consider the size of the two SMEs involved. Understanding their scale helps us gauge the dynamics and potential challenges or opportunities in their partnership. Next, in phase 3, we examine the similarity activity sector. This refers to how closely related their industries or activities are, which can influence compatibility and synergy. Finally, in Phase 4, we delve into governance structures, including legal governance, relational governance, and transactional governance. These are critical for ensuring clear rules, trust, and smooth transactions throughout the collaboration. Connecting all these phases, the case study illustrates how these factors interplay over time, guiding us through the practical application of the theoretical concepts we've discussed. Recognizing each phase's importance helps us better understand how to facilitate effective SME collaborations in real-world scenarios. Let's take a moment to look at the analysis. Here, I want to highlight the key points and really connect them to our overall theme. First, understanding the data thoroughly helps us make informed decisions. It's not just about numbers, but about what those numbers tell us regarding trends and patterns. By analyzing this content carefully, we can identify areas of strength and opportunities for improvement. This process allows us to see the bigger picture and ensures our strategies are aligned with our goals. Remember, effective analysis is the foundation for successful actions moving forward. So, keeping these insights in mind will help us stay focused and make smarter choices as we progress. Today, I want to share a fascinating case study involving Ginnard Energy's Marines and the NSCA system. This example really highlights the concept of vertical co-opetition within small and medium-sized enterprises. What we see here is a strategic collaboration where these companies, instead of competing directly, work together in a way that benefits both parties. It's a perfect illustration of how co-opetition can be implemented vertically along the supply chain. This approach allows SMEs to leverage each other's strengths, optimize resources, and create innovative solutions more efficiently. It also demonstrates how such partnerships can enhance competitiveness in niche markets like marine energies. Connecting this back to our overall theme, it underscores the importance of collaborative strategies in driving growth and innovation, especially for smaller firms looking to scale and compete globally. So this case study isn't just about one partnership. It's about the broader potential of vertical co-opetition as a powerful tool for SMEs to thrive in complex industries. Now, let's take a closer look at the key features and roles outlined in this table. On the buyer side, Ginnard Energy's Marines is primarily focused on downstream integration and gaining access to the market. Their expertise lies in marine engineering and offshore operations, which are crucial for deploying and managing offshore energy solutions. Their main contribution here is providing offshore testing environments, which are essential for validating new technologies in real-world conditions. Their strategic need is for complex software that can optimize energy production and efficiency. On the other hand, the supplier, NSCA system, specializes in upstream technology and sensor systems. Their expertise is rooted in software development and signal processing, enabling them to deliver high-level technological capabilities. Their contribution to this collaboration is providing advanced technological solutions, which can support the development of more efficient energy systems. Their strategic focus is on accessing marine energy markets, which aligns with expanding their technological reach. Now, looking at how these two entities collaborate, it's a partnership built on technical co-development and joint value creation. This means they work together closely, combining their strengths to innovate and succeed in the marine energy space. Overall, this collaboration exemplifies how complementary roles and expertise can lead to successful results in complex projects, ultimately driving forward the development of sustainable marine energy solutions. Let's talk about how vertical co-opetition creates value. Essentially, it does so through several key mechanisms: production integration, technological co-development, and multi-level coordination. These elements work together to enhance efficiency and innovation across the supply chain. But it's not just about having these processes in place. To truly sustain collaboration, it's crucial to combine well-structured contracts with strong relational trust. Continuous coordination helps maintain the partnership over time and effectively manage any conflicts that might arise along the way. Now, reflecting on the questions we posed at the start of this presentation, what we've found is that hybrid governance plays a vital role, especially for the longevity of joint ventures in SMEs. It provides the flexibility and stability needed to navigate complex collaborations. In conclusion, integrating these governance strategies and fostering trust are essential for creating lasting value through vertical co-opetition. This ties back to our overall theme: the importance of adaptable, well-managed partnerships in achieving sustained success in today's competitive environment. Let's take a moment to explore different perspectives on this topic. Understanding various viewpoints is crucial because it allows us to see the bigger picture and appreciate the complexity of the issues we're discussing. Each perspective offers unique insights and can challenge our assumptions, encouraging us to think more critically. By considering multiple angles, we not only deepen our understanding, but also foster more innovative solutions. Remember, in any project or challenge, the most effective strategies often come from integrating diverse perspectives. This idea ties back to our overall theme of collaboration and continuous learning. Embracing different viewpoints helps us grow and adapt in an ever-changing environment. So, as we move forward, I encourage you to keep an open mind and seek out those different perspectives that can enrich your understanding and approach. Vertical co-opetition is a fascinating concept where firms at different levels of the value chain work together, even though they are also competitors. It's a delicate balance of cooperation and competition happening simultaneously. The main goal here is to create more value together, which we achieve through things like production integration, where companies coordinate their manufacturing processes, and technological co-development, where they innovate jointly. Multi-level coordination is also key, meaning firms align their strategies across various stages of the chain. Of course, managing these strategic tensions can be tricky, so hybrid governance mechanisms come into play. These are tailored structures that allow firms to share benefits and manage conflicts effectively, ensuring each party gets its fair share of the value created. All in all, vertical co-opetition helps firms leverage their strengths at different levels, fostering innovation and efficiency while navigating the complexities of competing and cooperating at the same time. This concept ties back to our overall theme of strategic interfirm relationships and how they can drive mutual success in complex markets. Let's take a moment to look at some key references that have shaped our understanding of vertical co-opetition. First, Stéphane Lacost's 2012 work delves into the perspective of key accounts, highlighting how vertical co-opetition can be managed effectively at different levels of the supply chain. His insights emphasize the importance of strategic alignment between cooperating firms to create value. Next, Christoph Lechner and colleagues in 2016 explore how vertical co-opetition impacts the sales growth of young and small firms. Their research shows that engaging in co-opetition can serve as a catalyst for growth, especially for smaller players who might lack certain resources or market reach on their own. Rachid Hamoudi and his team in 2014 focus on strategic choices for product innovation, comparing individual strategies with vertical cooperation and co-opetition. Their findings suggest that the right approach depends on the company's goals and context, but co-opetition often offers a unique balance of collaboration and competition that fosters innovation. Moving on, Li Chai and colleagues in 2020 examine the complex interplay between co-opetition, conflicts, trust, and efficiency in vertical B2B relationships. Their work highlights that trust is crucial for managing conflicts and maximizing the benefits of co-opetition, ultimately leading to more efficient supply chain relationships. Finally, Wei Sun and his team in 2025 analyzed the risks and strategic advantages of vertical co-opetition. They reveal that while co-opetition can introduce certain risks, it also offers opportunities for firms to gain a competitive edge if managed carefully. Overall, these references underscore that vertical co-opetition is a nuanced strategy, one that requires careful balancing of cooperation and competition. When managed well, it can drive innovation, growth, and strategic advantage, aligning perfectly with our overall theme of leveraging collaboration for competitive success. Do you have any questions? Thank you all for your attention and engagement today. I hope this presentation has provided valuable insights and sparked some new ideas. Feel free to reach out to me through my LinkedIn profile if you'd like to continue the conversation or have any further questions. I appreciate your time and interest. Thanks again. And that brings us to the final slide. Here, I want to emphasize how all these concepts we've discussed come together to form a comprehensive understanding. The key takeaway is that success relies on a combination of clear communication, strategic planning, and adaptability. Remember, the most effective teams are those that can learn, grow, and adjust quickly. By integrating these principles into your own work, you'll be better equipped to face challenges and seize opportunities. Ultimately, this presentation has been about empowering you to think critically and act confidently in any situation. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing how you apply these ideas moving forward.